once, my ass.
I'm only 4. Bonjour, Monsieur Pussycat.
Cracking toast, Robert.
Start spreading the news.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the short podcast about short films. I'm your host, and we are discussing the Academy Award for Best Animated Short. Today's episode is about the 52nd year of the award at the 56th Academy Awards, which celebrates the films of 1983. Today's guest is a frequent one. You last heard him only 5 years ago discussing Special Delivery and the nominees of 1978. Please welcome back Ronaldo Sosa. Hello, Ronaldo.
Hello. Yeah, I'm very happy to be here again, and especially talking about this year because as I noticed when I watched it, because I didn't remember, the winner this year is part of your intro.
Yes, it is the big finale part of it. It's like going from Hungarian Rhapsody, it fades out and then it just starts spreading the news, and then it goes into my intro. And yeah, it's been there since the beginning, well, since episode 2, I think. But
Yeah, I think I had just blocked it from my mind. I didn't even remember what it was about. I thought that it was like from the title because I just knew that I didn't like it. I just remember from the title. I thought that it was 2 ice creams. That's
yeah, we'll get to that film when we get to it. But yes, it's always a pleasure having you back. It's always fun to talk about these different nominees, and not much has changed since you last answered this question. But just for posterity's sake, remind us, what is your familiarity with the Best Animated Short category?
Well, as you know, I have been an Oscar watcher for several years, and I didn't really pay attention to the shorts at the beginning. And then, like, eventually I started watching the shorts, like, from the years that we were in. And then I think it was the beginning of last year, I was watching like some David Lynch shorts, and then you said like, oh, you should watch all the animated short nominees, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll do that. And then I started doing that, and still haven't finished. Have like 5 years,
You got
but
this. You'll get there eventually.
eventually, yeah.
But yes, it's always a pleasure to talk about these shorts with you. And I think we should just get into these because we have 3 very different, each very I don't want to say they're very deep shorts, but they have a lot that we can say about them. So let's just get into these 3 nominees. Our first nominee and the year's winner is Sundae in New York, directed by Jimmy Picker. This is the second and final nomination for Picker, and his only win, previously nominated for Jimmy the Sea, a short where Jimmy Carter sings Georgia on My Mind. Like last time, I have very little to say going into this one. There just isn't much information out there regarding James Stephen Picker. I know he was born on July 8th, 1949. I know he's probably not dead. I know that when accepting his Oscar, he wore a gag bow tie that spun like a fan when he hit a button, and it made everyone at the Oscars laugh. When asked what winning an Oscar meant to him, he said, "Now no one can say I'm a bum." Oh, and I also found his home address and phone number online. I I just looked up his name and it popped up. So yeah, not much in terms of biography, but I can write him a letter or something, give him a call. Maybe I'll send
You
him
should
this.
invite him to be a guest sometime.
Yeah, maybe I'll send him this podcast episode on cassette tape or something. We'll see. But I've delayed this long enough. Let's find out why this film on Letterboxd has the lowest average rating of any Best Animated Short nominee. Sunday in New York stars a character resembling 80s New York City Mayor Ed Koch singing a parody of the song New York, New York, featuring many various caricatures of celebrities. Ronaldo, start us off. What did you think of Sunday in New York?
Well, I would say that I would say that this is an infamous nominee, but I don't know that enough people care about the shorts to say that it's like infamous really, because like no one really knows what it is. But yeah, it's like not really there's not much to talk about. It's just like I didn't really like it, and part of it was that when I first watched it, I had just watched another of the nominees this year, which I love, and the fact knowing that this one was like what made me angry at it. But now, like over a year has passed since that, and like watching it again, it's like very inoffensive. There's like really nothing. It's just like it's baffling the fact that it won because there's like nothing really there. It's just like him singing, and it was funny when you mentioned that when he won, he had the bow tie that was spinning, because there's like a shot in the short that's like a guy with a bow tie that's spinning. So maybe it was like a reference to that when he did it. Um, so yeah, I don't really know much that I could say. It's just like fine.
Yeah, I'm in a same mind. However, I feel like I noticed that like I don't think this is that bad. I think this is just perfectly innocent, harmless kind of thing. And it's just like the fact that people hate this, the fact that like I looked at the list of all the Oscar winners, it is the 12th lowest rated on Letterboxd. Uh, it's ahead of things like, The Iron Lady and Greatest Show on Earth and
I
Earthquake.
like Greatest Show on Earth.
Just throwing out examples. Crash, Disraeli, Two Distant Strangers, things like that. And it's just like, I don't think this does enough to warrant that much hatred. Like to be down in the dregs with stuff like Skin, it's just like, calm down, people. And it's just like, I don't want to be the Sunday New York defender, but I will be just because I think it's fine. In fact, I think it's kind of charming thing. It's just like I kind of enjoy like I'll just say straight up, it's not funny. It is. I don't really care that much for the character designs. In just comparing the two Jimmy Picker films I've seen, I kind of like Jimmy the Sea more, just because the designs in that one are a bit more garish, but in a way that's a lot more interesting too. And like this one, these are just kind of, people but turned into claymation figures. It's like it's nothing too scary or anything, I guess, which might be a good thing, but also might be just something that makes it a little less interesting. But at the same
Yeah.
time, it's just like there's just something about it that just like and it kind of ties into like when I watched his acceptance speech and like just all the things that I could find about him. Jimmy Picker is just a very humble guy. Like he understands that he is just so lucky to be in the position that he's in, to have won an Oscar, to just like there's the line in the song New York, New York. If I can make it there, I can make it anywhere. It's just like he's living this American dream. And it's just like it shows. It's just like he is just very lucky and he knows it. And it's just very down to earth guy. And I can see that in his film, and it makes me like it a bit more. It's just like I think Jimmy Picker's probably a nice guy. And it's just like a guy this nice. This film's not that bad. It charms me.
Yeah, I'm sure he's a nice guy, and there's again nothing offensive about this. It's just like I think that if it hadn't won or if it hadn't been nominated, it would just be a short that's out there and people wouldn't care. I think that the fact that it won is why people don't like it. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, like there are a lot of movies like that people wouldn't even remember if they hadn't won something, like Crash, maybe.
Yeah. It's just like there's just that distinction where it's just like, oh, this it's just fine or whatever. But the fact that it won, the fact that it beat this thing I actually like, and in this case it's Mickey's Christmas Carol, that means this is awful and I gotta give it a half-star rating because how could anybody possibly think this is any good? It's blah blah blah. And it's just like, calm down, please. Who cares? It's just a Sunday in New York. Uh, and it's spelled like Sunday for some reason, like the ice cream treat rather than the
Yeah,
day.
which is why I thought it was ice cream. I
Yeah,
really remembered nothing about what this was from when I saw it. I just knew that I didn't like it and that I didn't think it should have won. And then I started seeing it and it was like, oh, is this like a fake music video or something?
yeah,
And like, when are the ice creams coming?
yeah. It's just like he's just a guy, and he's like he's singing New York, New York, but like inserts lines that are meant to be jokes that are just kind of half jokes. Oh, and it's like no,
Yeah. And
and
like,
that's
it's not, like you said, it's not funny. It's just like there. It's fine.
yeah,
Like, I'm not mad that I spent 4 minutes of my life watching it.
yeah, and
I
it's not
wouldn't see it again if it wasn't for this, but it's not, I'm not mad at it.
yeah, and it's not even like groan worthy jokes or anything. It's just like it's just kind of obvious jokes. Like it's just like poking fun at New York, but it's also, it's a guy who loves New York, so it's okay that he makes these jokes making fun of it. And it's just like it I want to compare this film to like The Crunch Bird because like I think The Crunch Bird is a far worse film. It is just so bad, but that also makes it a lot more interesting to talk about. And it's a film. The Crunch Bird is something I would watch like over and over again just because I'm so baffled both by its existence and the fact that it won an Oscar. Meanwhile, A Sunday in New York, like I think it's just fine. And it's like I think it's more comprehensible as an Oscar winner because I think people like me, they were just kind of charmed by it. And it's like, oh, that's cute. Dude, it's just like it's New York, New York, but he's a New Yorker. It's like I imagine there's a lot of New Yorkers on the Academy, and it's also something that's like very I get I don't want to say it's topical because it's not really touching on any topics, but at the same time, it's like it's meant to be like the main guy is meant to be a caricature of the mayor of New York City at the time.
Yeah, and like, it doesn't have to be like, something doesn't have to have a message or be about something to be good. I'm
Mhm.
not saying that it's good, but it doesn't, but not necessarily for that reason.
Yeah, it's just it just exists. And I think it probably got a good laugh out of the Academy members who watched it, and that's why they voted for it. Yeah, and it's just like I can't really fault them for that.
Yeah. I was not expecting the conversation to go like this when we decided to do this year.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's like and something another thing is just like so you picked this year. This was one of the years that you were specifically like, I want to do this year. And I kept forgetting that like it wasn't for this film because it's like Christoph picked the Crunchbird year because that one was so bad. And it's like my mind just went, oh, you picked this year because Sunday New York is so bad. But no, you picked it for one of the later films which you really loved of and as just like oh yeah it's like because this one isn't even that bad, it's more forgettable than it is just straight out bad or anything.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't remember anything about it.
Exactly.
And you mentioned Crunchbird. I also mentioned Crunchbird in my first review of the movie when I first saw it. And I said that people don't really care about Crunchbird that much because that year was so bad.
Mhm.
Like, there's nothing to root for that year. So like, Crunchbird won, whatever.
Yeah. uh, I but the thing is it's like Crunchbird I guess I feel like maybe I have the inflated idea of Crunchbird in my head because me and Christoph just talk about it a lot, and it's
Yeah.
just like maybe other people don't care about the Crunchbird that much. Although it does have more of a place in Oscar history in terms because it is like it is the shortest winner ever. Like it's on the Wikipedia page of records and all of that, and there's things like that. Meanwhile, Sunday in New York is just kind of there, and it's also the film that beat a popular Mickey Mouse cartoon. So it gets a bit more notoriety.
Yeah.
But yeah, and at the same time, it's like Crunchbird doesn't deserve all the hate that it gets from people. Like I don't. Well, it kind of does, but also there's my point is that there's always worse things, and it's just like the worst things, the worst nominees, the worst winners are the ones that you don't know are even there until you watch it.
Yeah,
It's
like one
just
of those Mr. Magoo ones. I don't remember which one, but I
uh,
know that there's one that's like really
Magoo's Puddle
bad.
Jumper is definitely the one you're
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about.
yeah.
Like of the three, that's easily the worst one. But yeah, it's God. Animated short has less bad stuff, and it's just what I'm really thinking about is like going into live action short, looking at all those winners and things like that, because there is so much trash in there that is just completely forgotten to time. And
Yeah,
it's
like the one, and even ones that are not forgotten, like you mentioned before, Two Distant Strangers.
yeah, Two Distant Strangers and Scan is just like those have become kind of infamous in like recent years because of how bad they are. But then it's just like even like I personally really despise the film Curfew. That just won in 2012, but no one remembers that anyway because it was just
Yeah, and was the guy that directed it, didn't he have another one in the shortlist this year? Or I don't
maybe
remember. I don't know. I saw them all, but
no,
I don't
you're
know his.
thinking of the Danish no, not the
Yeah,
oh, I
it
forget what
was
it's called.
something from a European country. I don't know.
Um God, I'm just looking through my list right now because I know exactly what you're talking about, but I don't remember the name. It's just like an interesting man or something like that. This charming man. That's it. That's the one you're talking about because that guy directed something about like a guy singing karaoke for his dead wife and everybody gets mad at him for no reason. That's the one you're talking about.
Yeah,
Uh,
and even the one that just won this year, the one about the guy with the kid with Down syndrome. I don't
oh yeah,
know.
Irish
That was
Goodbye.
pretty bad.
I thought Irish Goodbye was fine. Like it's not great or anything. It's not good, but I'm not mad about it. There was
I
worse stuff this year.
was, yeah, there was worse, like Night Ride, but I still was rooting for two others.
Oh yeah, like so was I. It's just like a Lepopil and the Red Suitcase were both really good. Um, but we've gotten a bit off topic.
Yeah.
I just want to shout out Why Korea for being so awful, and also Give Me Liberty and a bunch of other live action short winners that are just so bad, just so bad.
I
Uh,
am not looking forward to whenever I go through them.
I don't think you will, as you shouldn't. Anyway, anything else you'd like to say about Sunday in New York? Any notable uh did you care about any of the celebrity cameos, quote unquote cameos in there?
Not really.
Okay. Let's move on to our second nominee then, which is Mickey's Christmas Carol, directed by Bernie Mattinson. This is Mattinson's first and only nomination, but this is the 42nd nomination for Walt Disney Animation Studios, last nominated 9 years ago for Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2, a studio that was once getting nominated every single year, winning a whole bunch, is now just relegated to one nominee a decade. Um, this film also marks the grand return for many Golden Age Disney characters, having been so long since they've seen the silver screen. This is Donald Duck's 10th nomination, last nominated in 1955. This is Mickey Mouse's 8th nomination, last nominated in 1948. And this is also the first and only nomination for the true lead of today's short, Scrooge McDuck. In Disney lore, McDuck is the uncle of Donald Duck on his mother's side and is usually portrayed as one of, if not the richest man in the world, or I should say, richest duck in the world. McDuck made his debut and for a long time appeared only within the Disney comics and got his original name and persona from the classic Dickens character of Ebenezer Scrooge. Though McDuck is not just a lonesome old miser, he's also an adventurer, a treasure hunter. He goes on many grand adventures. As his character developed in the 40s and 50s, he grew more and more of a fan following, and the writer Carl Barks eventually he gave him a larger presence in the Duck comics, eventually giving him an equal or greater presence to Donald Duck himself. While completely absent on the big screen, Scrooge McDuck was a star on paper. It became only a matter of time before he was brought to the silver screen. His first appearance is surprisingly not in this year's nominee, but in the educational short Scrooge McDuck and Money, in which he teaches Huey, Dewey, and Louie about the history of currency. But it is today's nominee and its commercial success that I believe is what caused the larger Duck universe to be accepted into the mainstream Disney canon, including the debut of the popular Disney cartoon DuckTales and all the shows that followed thanks to its success. So, how did this happen? Well, it all starts with Bernie Mattinson. One day, while he's working on the upcoming Disney feature, The Black Cauldron, he gets some harsh notes from the film's directors and gets mad at them out of frustration. And fearing that he might be on track to losing his job after this incident blowing up at his directors, he makes a go big, go home play of sending Disney CEO Ron Miller a letter about an idea for an adaptation of A Christmas Carol starring all the classic Disney characters. Ron Miller then calls Mattinson into his office, pretends to be mad about the letter, only to tell him that it's a fantastic idea and gets the project into production. The film was conceived as a 30-minute TV special and would be aired every Christmas season, and eventually was first released as an intro short before the re-release of The Rescuers. One last note, the short marks the final time that longtime Donald Duck voice actor Clarence Nash got to voice the character, passing away in 1985. And in regards to the director and producer, Bernie Mattinson, he passed away this past February at the age of 87. With that said, based on the Charles Dickens A Christmas Carol and released a decade after another animated short version won this category, Mickey's Christmas Carol stars Scrooge McDuck in a full circle role as Ebenezer Scrooge. He is so greedy and miserly that one Christmas Eve night, he is visited by the ghost of his former partner Jacob Marley, as played by Goofy, and told that three spirits will come and show him the error of his ways and help him appreciate his assistant Cratchit, as played by Mickey Mouse, and his nephew Fred, as played by Donald Duck. And so, if you know me at all, you know that I have seen so many adaptations of A Christmas Carol. I think I'm up to like 88 at this point. And this was, of course, one of the first ones I saw because it is one of the most popular adaptations of A Christmas Carol. And for my earlier impressions of the short was that it was kind of generic, which is kind of surprising. The fact that like, oh, this Disney short that incorporates all of its major characters into this story, it just kind of turns out to be a generic adaptation of A Christmas Carol. But on this watch, I found myself appreciating it a bit more, especially in regards to Scrooge McDuck as Ebenezer Scrooge. Um, I think he does a lot of interesting stuff with the character. Like, and the whole short, I think, does a few interesting things in order to cram it into, like 25 minutes, where normally the whole novella takes like an hour and a half to produce properly into a movie, at least. But there is still some of that like lingering kind of genericness, and it's like not all of the crunching works for me. And I one of my main problems with it is the fact that Goofy is Jacob Marley to Scrooge McDuck's Ebenezer Scrooge, because why is Goofy Jacob Marley? This doesn't make sense with these characters. Like, Goofy is not a Jacob Marley as character. He is not evil. And it's just like, it just kind of throws these Disney faces into this story without much care as to like really adapting it to the characters. It doesn't meet it halfway. It wants to be more Christmas Carol than it wants to be Disney. And it's just like, you really need to go both if you want this to really succeed. Like something like Muppets Christmas Carol, which is, peak Christmas Carol adaptation, and it balances the Muppets and the original story so well that in a way that this just doesn't. I could go on and on. I want you to get your chance to say some things, Ronaldo. So go ahead. What do you think?
Well, this was another one of the reasons why I was excited to do this, because I know that you're a Christmas Carol expert, and I'm not really that familiar with it. The only like true adaptations that I've seen are the animated, the very the many animated adaptations that have been nominated in this category. And though I don't remember if there are that many, aren't there like 3 or 4? I don't remember. But yeah, I don't really know that much about A Christmas Carol unless you count maybe Collateral Beauty. You could say it's kind of a Christmas Carol adaptation. So yeah, I also had questions for you because of that. Like, is Scrooge like in every version supposed to be British?
He so the original story is set in, Dickensian London, and so Scrooge and all the characters are like British, although like Scrooge McDuck is Scottish is the thing. He's not meant. It's like he does still have the Scottish accent in the short, but then it's like I think it's the giant who's playing Christmas Present. He calls him British, and it's just
Yeah, that's why
like
I find this
which I
strange.
guess Scottish is British, but also it just feels different, you know? It's just like you should say Scottish if you mean Scottish. It's like British is a generic kind of identity.
Yeah, and I also wanted to like know why they named it Mickey's Christmas Carol if it's not really like Mickey is barely in it. He's just like in a scene at the beginning and he's just kind of a plot point. And it's not even him, but his son that
Uh,
makes the big change. And yeah, I didn't mind it. Like it was fine. And I um like there are things that I wanted to mention that I'm forgetting right now. Like at the beginning, I didn't know that Scrooge McDuck was an actual character, so I thought that they just I th at the beginning I thought it was supposed to be Donald. And then when he started talking, I was like, what is that voice? And
yeah.
and I was like, and then Donald shows up and I'm like, oh. So then, like, why didn't just make Scrooge Donald? And I think having that at the center and having like the Donald voice doing like being the main character would have worked better for me. And like Donald is already like kind of a grumpy guy,
Mhm.
so I think it could have worked, and it would have maybe been funnier. But I don't know if this is trying to be funny. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, like I definitely agree with you there. It's just like while it does make a lot of sense, it's like you already have this Scrooge character, a character literally based on Ebenezer Scrooge in your canon. It's just like you should use him as Ebenezer. I feel like it's part of the problem that I was mentioning earlier about how this film leans too close to Christmas Carol itself rather than really trying to incorporate the Disney characters into it. Because it's like it would make so much more sense, like in terms of just like the different relationships, to have Donald as like the Ebenezer character, and then maybe like have his nephews as Bob Cratchit or something. Although that might be weird with like Tiny Tim and everything, and then you could have like Scrooge McDuck as like his partner or something, or as like Marley. And then it's just like it's just like there's a lot of different ways you could do this, like in a way that works better than the way than than the film at hand actually does. And it's just like I as it is, the film is fine. It works, but also it could be so much better. And
Yeah,
yeah,
and there
and
are things that I also wanted to say that are like more not really about the short specifically, but more like about Christmas Carol itself, of how like you're supposed to think that go and like seeing all of that changed Scrooge and that he's now a better person. But like, is he really a better person or is he just scared of going to hell?
yeah, that is one of the things. It's just like that's a common criticism or like question about the story. It's just like and it's one of the trickiest things to get right about like Christmas Carol adaptations. It's like how can you be sure that Scrooge has actually changed and is not just, afraid. Hey, and it's just like and the best adaptations, the ones that are most careful, they do get this right. Where it's just like you could see the progression of Scrooge learning the error of his ways, seeing the person he's become, and like learning it's like, hey, this is what I should be rather than the person I've been. And it's just like, but oftentimes you just see adaptation, like especially the ones that like just kind of use A Christmas Carol as like a basis, and it's just like, oh, I think I know how the story goes. You just kind of scare the old guy into being nice, and it's just like it's literally just like, oh, this guy is so terrified that he's just gonna pretend to be nice in order to uh try and change his fate, even though it's kind of hopeless because he doesn't actually mean it. And
Yeah,
it's
and
just
like
like,
also that like that his way of being nice is just giving money to people, and he's like, "Oh, I'm giving you money, so you're all gonna love me now."
mhm. And yeah, that with this one specifically, I was thinking that how it's just like especially once we get to the Christmas future scene, and it's with Pete as the ghost. I was just like, and he's like hanging from the rope, and it's like he's about to fall into his burning coffin. It is just like, I don't think this is teaching the right lessons here. Is and I'm trying. I don't remember the original story that well. I haven't read it in like a really long time, but it's like I don't remember a fantasy scene where it's just like where he's like imagining hell or anything. I think it is just like the ghost shows him his grave, and he sees like how nobody likes him anymore, and how people are just like robbing him of his things in his death, and it's just like, and just to reveal like this is the person that these people all hate. It's just like, wow, I'm such a shit guy. I should really stop being that. But no, it's like so many of these adaptations add like these hell scenes, and it's just like that doesn't really fit with like what we're trying to do here. Yeah. uh but yeah, if you have any more questions about the lore of Donald Duck or Christmas Carol, just let me know. I'm happy to answer them.
I'm sure I would, but they nothing comes up right now.
Okay. Yeah, it's just like when I was writing the little prologue, like just talking about the history of like Scrooge McDuck and stuff, I had the pages open for like the different uh the different sides of the Donald Duck family tree. Like there's Clan McDuck and there's the Duck family. He has just like the like Donald's father's side and his mother's side of his family. He has just like, and I just remembered how so you remember the Symposium of Popular Songs, right? That Disney short where it's just like all these fake
Yeah,
songs. Yeah, and the character in that, Ludwig von Drake, he is meant to be a relative of Donald. He's called Donald's uncle in some things. And I think if I remember correctly, he is on uh Donald's father's side, or at least meant to be. But the thing is, it's that he's never in like the official family trees or anything. And yet he's supposed to be like a relative of Donald. And he does pop up and other things. But at the same time, it's just like he's he's both part of the family and isn't. And just like, how is he related to Donald? Because he is, but also he doesn't fit into the tree at all. Where does he go? And so I'm just imagining like he's actually not related at all, but just pretending to be for clout or something. Even though he has enough clout as like the inventor of all music or whatever.
yeah, and like were they all made by the same person? Because I could imagine that if it's like different artists making different things, like they all don't fit.
Well, there's a couple artists, and like on the Wikipedia page, it shows like a couple different family trees, but he's on neither of them. He's
Okay.
he's like there's some fan theories about like where he's supposed to be placed, but it's like there's nothing like quote unquote official. I think that there is like actual official releases by Disney of like the Duck family trees and whatever. I think there's like a book or something, and by one of the later artists, I believe. I would pull up the names now, but it's like it's hard to get to the pages.
Yeah,
But but yeah, it's great. I I love Donald Duck. Donald Duck's great.
I
People
love
should
Donald Duck too.
I it's gonna be so fun when we get to the later uh post and best animated short segment, and I can just like devote a whole episode to Donald Duck and his crazy universe. God, I've just been So I always prep so far ahead with this podcast. It's to the point where it's just like I have already filled out guests for the entire best animated short run. And so now my mind has kind of checked out of this section and is just thinking about like, oh, what are all the films that I can do on, or what are all the episodes I can do for the next season? I'm starting to plan out the different episodes and the release orders, or as like the guests I think I would want for them.
Which are
It's just
probably
like,
over a year away.
yeah, it's like the first of those episodes won't come out until June 13th, 2024. Literally just under a year away.
Yeah, like
It,
a week less than a year.
it's so it's just like, yeah. I I plan up far ahead for this podcast. But it just shows how much I love it, really. Like that, I just really enjoy doing this. I love talking to my friends about movies, because I love just like introducing people to new things, and I love hearing my friends talk about things they're passionate about too. And so it's just like it combines all these different things I love into just one place, and it's just like it's great. And I want to keep doing it.
Yeah, that's why I like listening as well. I like listening to people talk about things they like. And I used to listen to more podcasts, but now, like, if there's a person I don't like in one, I don't listen to it. So I stopped several podcasts because I didn't like some of the hosts. And now I mostly just listen to podcasts by my friends.
Yay! That's me. I'm a friend. Uh, But yeah, we were talking about Mickey at some point. Oh, that's another thing you brought up. How it's
He is
called
not in it.
like it. So yeah, it's called Mickey's Christmas Carol, even though he's barely in it, and that's just because Mickey's the star. He's the star pupil of the Disney catalog. So it's like, of course, they got to name it after him. And to be fair, if there was like a secondary lead, it would be Bob Cratchit, because you undersell how much he's in this, because he pretty much takes up the entire of the Christmas present section. It's just watching him, and it's just like, and he is probably like,
Well, not just him, his family.
yeah, but his family doesn't have any lines except for Tiny Tim.
Which is also like weird. Like when he's outside in the window watching them and he's like, "Oh, and what's gonna happen to Tiny Tim?" And he's
Mhm.
like crazy.
Mhm.
I don't know.
But
It's
yeah,
strange.
it's just like, is Tiny Tim. He has tuberculosis and stuff, and he's just like, oh, is he gonna make it? And then of course and what might be like my favorite scene in this, like one of my favorite adaptation choices, is like, so normally in Christmas Carol, what happens is Ghost of Christmas Present, like he like looks into the future in his mind and just tells, it's like, I see a lone spot in the corner, or a crutch without an owner, and things like that, just kind of saying what happens. But in this one, it's like, when we get to Christmas future, it's like we see Mickey
I'm burying
laying
him.
Tiny Tim's cane at his grave, and he's crying, and it's just like, that hits a lot more. We are seeing the emotions. It's just like, yes. And
Well, I
it's,
can't say that I really felt much, but it is more impactful, I would say.
yeah, and it's like it's one of the few times that I have believed that Mickey has emotions. Uh,
And he's not playing Mickey.
yeah, it's Mickey. Like, this is essentially all the Disney characters in a play, or like acting in a movie, and instead of them being
Yeah,
themselves.
and like that's easy for Mickey because he doesn't really have a personality, so you can just put him anywhere and it would be fine because like the only thing that would identify him is his looks and
Yeah,
his voice, and
yeah,
that's it.
he's gotten so good at faking any kind of emotions in real life that he could just do it easily when it comes to a fake story like this. I want like a fake like behind the scenes mockumentary about like what like the making of this, and this like, you get Donald being mad that he's not Ebenezer Scrooge. It's like his fucking uncle is a nepo baby off of him.
Maybe like trying to be a method actor or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and Minnie is pissed off that she doesn't get any lines, that she's just there to be supportive or whatever. And it's just like, and Goofy's just confused as to why he's cast, but he's grateful for the opportunity. God.
Yeah, that would be fun. We should be making shorts.
It, maybe if they made our idea, like it would have beat Sunday New York.
It should have. I mean, this one should have beaten it. Like, people probably know that Sunday New York is going to be last place.
Oh yeah, like
We didn't hate it.
even my defense of Sunday in New York is just like I do like this one because at the end of the day, it's still a Christmas Carol. You still get a lot of great stuff that's in that, even if it is a bit of a lesser adaptation than a lot of its peers. But at the same time, the Christmas Carol adaptations can get very, very bad. They the well is so deep.
Yeah, like it's not really like a direct adaptation, but that movie from last year with Ryan Reynolds and like Spirited.
Spirited. Oh my God, that one torments me. I saw that in theaters just because I knew I had to. It's just,
I only did because it was in the short list for Best Original Song.
yes, it was. I forgot about that. But yeah. Just to emphasize how deep the shit well goes. So I've seen 88 films, Christmas Carol adaptations, and of those, I would consider 26 of them to be good. 26 out of 88.
And this is one of them.
This is one of them. This is a good one. I like this one. It's not the best, and I wouldn't say it's even as good as the one that won a decade ago, Richard Williams' A Christmas Carol, but it's still good. And yeah, and you were asking before how many were nominated in this category. I think it's just these two. Like I can't think of any or see any that were also nominated in this category. Like there's some that were nominated for Oscars in other categories, like Scrooge 1970 with Albert Finney that was nominated for Best Original Song. And the song was stolen by Spirited at one point. Actually, no, it was parodied by Spirited with Good Afternoon. It was stolen by another Christmas Carol adaptation from last year that was animated and on Netflix, which is weird. Starred Luke Evans and Olivia Colman and Jesse Buckley for no reason. But yeah.
Oh, Lost Daughter Reunion.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. God, it is. But yeah. I should really reread the story. I
I've
think
never read it.
maybe we should read it together. Like maybe I should do like a bonus episode where I just read the entirety of A Christmas Carol. That could be fun.
Yeah.
Like maybe like in post animated short years, like when I have a Christmas episode or whatever.
Yeah, that would be fine.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you'd like to say about Mickey's Christmas Carol? Any final thoughts? Anything you noticed?
No, just like, do any of the female characters have lines?
I think
I think
Daisy.
Daisy. Yeah,
Yeah.
Daisy.
Who's playing Belle or Bella or Isabel, something like that.
I
She
think
gets a few lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like sometimes Christmas Past is played by a woman, but no, it's Jiminy Cricket this time. But yeah, but then again, there just aren't many women in Disney canon. It's like it's a lot of guy characters. Like there's Minnie and Daisy Duck who are both very frequently sidelined in their stories, and then every other character is just so minor that most people don't know their names, like Clarabelle Cow and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, let's go on to our third and final nominee, which is Sound of Sunshine, Sound of Rain, directed by Caroline Hayward. This is the first and only nomination for producer Edgar Hallinan. Hallinan is mainly a TV producer and mainly focused on after-school programming with such titles as I Think I'm Having a Baby, The Less Than Perfect Daughter, All the Kids Do It, and Stand Up. I find it much more interesting to talk about Caroline Hayward, our director. This seems to be the reverse Jimmy Picker, where I can't find Caroline Hayward's birth date or current living status, but I think I'll assume she's alive. but I do know quite a lot about her career thanks to the fact that I have found her LinkedIn page. So let's go down the list. Uh, she was educated at Cal Arts, worked at Filmfare, both to direct today's nominee as well as animate on other projects for them. And then the majority of her career is really just seems to be as a freelance artist, working wherever she can get work. She did spend 4 years from 1984 to 1988 at DreamQuest Images as an effects animator and art director, and she seemed to move away from traditional animation towards computer graphics effects. And the most recent parts of her career that I see are as effects and CG supervisors and producers, most notably at Rhythm and Hues. She worked there from 1993 to 2012, and if you recognize that name, Rhythm and Hues, you might know that the reason she only worked there until 2012 was because the company went bankrupt due to, among other things, working on Ang Lee's Life of Pi and the immense debt that the project accrued them. In any case, that's where Hayward's LinkedIn page ends. From what I can tell, Hayward made this page in order to try and get work after the collapse of Rhythm and Hues and hasn't done much on the page since. This is especially shown in the fact that she has 4 reviews on her page, and they're all from early 2013. I'll just read one from Lisa White, who apparently managed Carolyn directly. I have had the privilege of hiring Caroline as one of our top senior her commercial VFX producers for the past 7 years. Caroline is not only wonderful with clients, but her technical knowledge and humor endears her to the team. She walks that tightrope of keeping the agency happy and ensuring projects are delivered on time and on budget. I know a project, no matter how big or small, wonderful is in wonderful hands with Caroline at the helm. How nice is that? I hope Caroline is currently living her best life and is working on the project she loves. But let's go back to the start of her career for the film that earned someone else an Oscar nomination. Sound of Sunshine, Sound of Rain is about a blind black boy and showing us how he experiences the world around him and how different people react to who he is and how he lives. Ronaldo, what did you think of our final nominee?
I love it. I adore it. When I first saw it, I even texted you right after saying like to talk to someone about it because I loved it so much and I never even heard of it because it's not really one of the most notable, like, and not really many people talk about it, but it's just like so beautiful and like the way that it uses the the medium of animation to like show everything from his perspective, and like he's blind, so like every other character in the short, like you never see their face, at least not directly. Like the only other full face you see is like his mom when when she's kissing him, and you only see it through the reflection in the cup of coffee or tea or juice, I don't know, but in a liquid, in a reflection. And like how the sound is used to show how he experiences everything, like when he's walking in the street and you hear the sound of the cars, and like when he's saying like, oh, like how this sounds like it would scratch me, it sound like he would pick me or something. It's just like really beautiful, and also like it's very, I have to like, is Carolyn Hayward a black woman?
I'm pretty sure she's white, but I'm not totally sure because again, can't find much about her. But I think she's
Well,
white.
still, it's impressive that because it would be very easy to like make like this connection of like, oh, this blind boy and he can't see colors, he doesn't know what color it is, and then he's black and he's like coming in contact with racism for the first time. And it would be very easy to make that heavy-handed, but they do it in a way that, yes, it's like shown from the perspective of like the innocence of a child and how a child who doesn't really know what that is would experience it, but also not minimizing it and like showing like one of the most beautiful parts as well, like in the scene at the store where the owner of the store gets mad at him because he has the thing with the apples where he lets them fall, and then they're out and like his sister is mad, and then he like puts his hand to her face, and like when he brings it down you see that there's a tear in his thumb,
Mhm.
and it's not really even really like mentioned, but it's like very gentle in a way. I don't know how to describe it, but I just love it. It's great.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like it's such a tricky thing to do to try and show like life without sight through a visual medium. But the film does it in such an interesting way. And it's like it's clearly a low budget production. It's like it was probably made for TV or something, but it's still with the resources it has, it's just made able to make something that is just so utterly beautiful and so like quietly like destroying you. Who like as the short goes on, it's just like you just become so like slowly more and more overwhelmed with emotion, just feeling for the boy at hand. And like you were saying, it's a film that could so easily just become just some hokey, manipulative, if kind of just generic kind of thing. But Caroline Hayward is just so careful with it and so tender, and it just makes so pitch perfect. It never goes too heavy-handed with its emotionality, but it still has that emotionality. It's never cold either, or it's just so perfectly done. And like you mentioned, that scene at the end with his sister, it's like when they talk about like how like he doesn't see like he literally can't see race. Like he doesn't know like the race of his of the ice cream man that he became friends with at the park, or who was telling him about like how beautiful the world is and how the colors are all beautiful and there's no best color or anything and things like that. Which as I'm saying it, it does sound super
Yeah.
heavy-handed, but it's not.
Yeah,
You
because
just
uh, it's like done in a way where like it's obviously like commenting on race, but like at that point, like you have never it's never really been about race. So he's just like telling him like, oh, colors, like there's red and blue, and like no one is better than the other. They're just like different.
yeah.
And also like I really like the way that it's written. It's almost like a poem in a way because a lot of the lines rhyme and everything. And there's like this really beautiful line towards the end when he's like blowing the balloons inside his room, and he's like I'm pretending that every balloon of this is like a different sound, and like now I'm hearing as like the sound is like the room is filled with the music of these colors. It's like such a beautiful line.
Hmm. Yeah, it's just so good. It's hard. It's really hard to put into words because I'm not as good as this movie. I can't be as poetic as this film is, so I can't properly describe it in a way that does it justice. But it's really something you just gotta see, and it's like I really hope that like we can get more people to watch this film and to appreciate it because it truly deserves more. Or it is one of the best nominees in this category, like in the
It would,
entire category.
yeah, definitely would be top five for me.
Yeah, God, it's just so good. One of the moments that really stuck out to me, it's early on into it, but it's like when I really realized it's like, oh yeah, this is really good. Is when he's it's so the film starts out with him waking up and he's like just kind of like feeling his way around the room and stuff like as he like getting reaccustomed to a space that he already knows really well, but of course just like centering himself in his world. Well, and just like and he reaches over to the chair to feel if his mom left clothes out for him this morning, and then it's just like when he touches the shirt, it's like he says it's like a soft texture and it's like an all white shirt. But then it's just like when the pants are like a rough texture or whatever, or and it's like a very busier kind of design. It's like all I don't know the design names, but it's like plaid or something. It's like a bunch of lines and everything. It's like that is just such a clever, simple way to show like the differences like between soft and rough in a visual way that makes it clear, but also, is still visually interesting. It's like that's good. It's good filmmaking. And this short is just filled with lots of good filmmaking because it's a really good short.
Yeah, and then there's also like it's not really like dwelt upon, but it's also like showing the ways that like people with disabilities are patronized by everyone else
Mhm.
with good intentions. Like that woman when they go outside and there's that woman who like when she's talking to him like he's
Like
uh
he's deaf or something, hard of
yeah,
hearing. It's like
like
even though
speaking like talking really loudly, and then she goes and whispers to her sister like he can't hear anything. And also like the way that his mom, who loves him and wants everything to be okay, and like the way that his mom is like always trying to protect him, like how she doesn't at the beginning doesn't want him to go outside without her and she wants to stay up with him. And yeah, it's just really beautiful and great.
It
And
is really great.
something else, like when he meets the guy, the ice cream seller. I don't
Yeah,
those people have
the ice cream
names.
man. I
The
forget what
ice
his
cream
name
man.
was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like Armand or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's probably not intentional, but like if that was me, like if I was that kid, I would have gotten a crush on that guy. He's like really, I don't know. It
Uh,
gave me a vibe.
Abram was his name, but yeah, I liked how it's like so when when the boy realizes that Abram's coming over, it's just like he's at first like it's like, oh, I don't really want him to come over because it's like I just kind of want to be here by myself.
And in my
But
ice cream.
hey, and eat my ice cream, make sure I don't spill it on myself and everything. Hey,
Yeah,
but
and like how he's very self-conscious at the beginning because the guy's just sitting there not saying anything. He's like, "Oh, like I'm trying to eat it without spilling anything, like so that the guy doesn't feel bad for him because he doesn't want pity."
hmm yeah, but then it's like once Abram starts talking to him, it's just like he quickly, immediately realizes it's like, oh, this guy's pretty cool. And it's just like he's teaching me things. It's like he's showing me a different way to quote unquote see the world. And it's just like it's beautiful scenes. Like this short is just beautiful scene after beautiful scene. And speaking of beautiful, it's Lisa Bonet voices the sister. I think that's cool.
Yeah, and she's great.
She's great. We love her. Yeah. That was a weird silence. We were just like thinking about Lisa Bonet. Yeah. But yeah. Um, anything else you'd like to say about this? Or just want to say it's great a few more times?
Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's great, and it. I wish that she had made more things. Like she should have been a big deal after this. Caroline Hayward.
Yeah.
She should have been like making features.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened to her. And also one one more thing that I didn't put into the intro. Uh so it doesn't mention this on her LinkedIn page. It doesn't say I I couldn't even find like any of the studios she worked for on under this project, but IMDb lists her as a sequence director on the Transformers animated series from the 80s. She's apparently worked on 30 episodes according to IMDb. Uh so that's cool.
Yeah.
Especially since the new Transformers movie is out right now. I felt like it was worth mentioning. Even if it's not true, which it might not be because IMDb does not really fact check that much. But
No, I
yeah,
hope she's doing well.
Transformers more than meets the eye. Yeah. I'm sorry. Caroline Hayward deserves more than the last notes to be just the Transformers. I'll reiterate my comments from before. It's just like I just really hope that she is doing something she's proud of right now because again, I can't find really anything about her or her career or outside of that LinkedIn page or it's just like for some reason her IMDb page doesn't like credit her for anything, which is weird, but
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and she only has a Transformers show, Ton of Sunshine and the Rain, and something called Spirit Lodge, which is another short. And she was in the animation department.
yeah, it's
Oh, and
just
she was credited as Carolina Hayward in there.
yeah. So somebody misspelled her name. But yeah, it's just like it's weird. It's just like I wonder what's going on with her. But yeah, no matter where she is, this short film is still great. And everyone out
Yeah, and
there,
she should be proud of it. And she was robbed, even though the Oscar wouldn't have been hers.
yeah. Uh, it that's always so disappointing. It's like and even nowadays at this point in the category, it's like we are seeing more directors getting credit for, their short films like where they are the producer. But at the same time, it's like it's just a weird situation because like sometimes you do still get years like this where it's just like the credited producer is not the director and like in the in the rules for the Academy at this time, it is saying just like the producer is the one that gets nominated, and it's like it gives a very vague definite. I don't even think it says producer. It just says like main creative influence or something like that. So something really broad like that, and it's just like, okay, what does that mean? And it's just like, I don't know. I'm wondering at what point do we switch over to like making sure that the directors get credited in and it's like I forget how it is how it even is now, but it's just like I know it's just like
And I think that it's the director and the producers, but I'm not sure if the writers are also included. But like most of the time for shorts, the director is the writer. So
mhm. Yeah, it and I know there's like a limit of like two or three nominees uh for the film at this point. Right? And so it's just like you gotta pick like who or whoever or maybe the Academy makes a judgment as to who the main creative influence was or
yeah,
whatever.
the rules are available, so we could check, but
Yeah, it'll take a while to get to the page and
yeah.
whatever, so I don't want to bother with that. And I do check them like year by year as we're going through just to keep up on like the wording and everything. But yeah, when we get to modern day, it's like we'll see how it is. But yeah, any final thoughts on Sound of Sunshine, Sound of Rain?
No, just if anyone is listening, they should go watch it if they haven't, and if they have, they should go back and see it again. And I'm talking to Christoph here.
Oh yeah, everybody should like I even on a rewatch, even though I loved it already, it's just like watching it again, it did just like make it so much better. Even like I raised it from 4 stars to 4.5.
And I
It
raised it from 4.5 to 5.
yeah, it's just like it's something that rewards multiple watches. It's just like something you can just keep coming back to and falling in love over and over again.
Yeah, and I was even concerned before watching it, thinking like, oh, maybe I'm not gonna like it as much as the first time, but I liked it more.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, movies are great. People
Yeah.
are amazing.
The whale.
I for a person that hates that movie, I do love referencing it a lot. It's so
The whale is hilarious. Like I was dying watching that movie.
it's so fascinatingly terrible. It's just like I can't stop thinking about it because it just does so many bad decisions that it's just like how could
Yeah,
any
like,
sane person make those decisions?
and I truly can't understand how anyone can take that movie seriously.
Yeah, it like Jesus Christ, how did it win 2 Oscars? Oh God. Anyway,
And then the only one that it arguably deserved is the one that it didn't win.
yeah. Yeah. But then again, Hong Chao is like fifth place in that category.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've gone through and talked about these three nominees. Let's rank them all. Ronaldo, start us off with your number three of what I'm certain is going to be the exact same rank for both of us.
Yeah, I'm sure anyone who listened will probably guess that number 3 is Sunday in New York.
Sunday in New York. Perfectly inoffensive, fine, short, that most people really despise, but I don't hate it.
It's okay.
It's okay. Uh, but number two is Mickey's Christmas Carol, which is better than okay. It's perhaps even good, which
Yeah.
is a step up. And it's a Christmas Carol adaptation. You know what you're going to get into, except now this time you have some Mickey Mouse and Friends characters. And does it improve it? Not really,
Not
but
really.
it's still a good time, you know? And I think people, and when I was going on, like, just looking up when I was looking up Sunday in New York and looking through the comments, it's like so many people were like, wow, how could this beat Mickey's Christmas Carol? This sucks.
You should
And
watch the other nominee.
yeah, it's just, yeah, nobody mentioned Sound of Sunshine, Sound of Rain at all because, of course, they wouldn't because nobody's heard of it, but it's better. As is like, just because you watched Mickey's Christmas Carol as a kid doesn't make it any good or it doesn't make it that
And
good.
it is, but
Like it's good, but it's like you're fighting way too hard for it. Like, come
yeah.
on. Like everybody just needs to calm down about this fucking year and watch Sound of Sunshine, Sound of Rain, so we can all talk about how great that is. Yeah, and Number one, Sound of Sunshine, Sound of Rain, of course, because it's amazing and perfect, and everybody needs to watch it.
I couldn't have said it better.
Yes. And before we end our show, are there any final thoughts you'd like to share, Ronaldo, or anything you'd like to promote?
Well, final thoughts. Very interesting year. Three very different nominees. Um, that are maybe worth watching for different reasons. Even Sunday in New York, like maybe not really worth watching, but it's like 3 minutes, so who cares? And yeah, and to promote, I don't really have anything. I would say go to my Twitter, even though I haven't really been very active on Twitter recently. But yeah, it's our Santana 2024. I am there um a lot, and I mostly just post thirst tweets.
Of course. Yeah. Uh, and on your point about how this is like a very diverse year in terms of like the kinds of films, and it's like we mentioned before recording that it's just like the lengths of this film are even like spread out because like Sunday in New York is 4 minutes, Sound of Sunshine is like 14, and then Mickey's Christmas Carol is 24. So that spreads the spectrum of like really short nominee to really long nominee. And
Yeah.
also, I know you haven't been able to listen to this episode yet because it's not posted as we're recording this. But when I was talking to Christoph last week, we said that that year was like a really good representation of like the kind of shorts that the Academy tends to nominate. Like there's the very classical kind of nominee where it's just like, the classic Disney stuff, Tom and Jerry, things like that. Then there's the more experimental kind of stuff where it's like they start to stretch their boundaries and just like really open themselves up to like foreign stuff and more interesting stories, I guess. Though like Mickey's, or I guess not Mickey shorts, but like Donald Duck shorts can have interesting stories, but they tend not to. But it's like
Yeah.
when you get to independent stuff, it's like it tends to like open up the possibilities of what animation can really bring. And then the third category is just the weird shit that you have no idea why it was even on the Academy's radar. It's just like, but it ended up in the nomination booth anyway, and sometimes it wins, like this year.
Like Tango, even though that's a good one.
Yeah,
Well, I
Tango
would say
is the
no. Tango
experimental
is
one.
yeah, yeah.
Tango was that second category. We were saying for last year is that the Snowman is the more traditional kind. Tango is like the experimental foreign kind, and then the Great Cognito is the weird shit. And then for this year, it's kind of a similar thing. You have Mickey's Christmas Carol as a traditional, Sound of Sunshine as like a more experimental kind, and then Sunday in New York as the weird shit, as just like it's another great little microcosm of the category where it's just like if you want to just get like a good spread on like what this category is about, you could just watch these three nominees and be like, oh yeah, okay, I get what's going on here. Yeah, although I think actually I don't know which of these years I'd recommend because like Tango and Snowman are both really great, but neither of them are as great as Sound of Sunshine. But like, then Mickey's Christmas Carol isn't as good as Tango or Snowman, and then Sunday in New York is better than Great Cognito in my opinion, but neither of them are all that good, and your mileage may vary as well. So
Yeah, and then like they are short, so even if you don't like it, it's not that long, and you can
yeah, just
maybe
just watch both years. Like
yeah,
don't
like
limit
watch
yourself.
all of the years.
Yeah, watch everything. It's like the average short length is like 8 minutes, so it's just like times that by like 500, and then bing bam boom, you're done.
Yeah, you can finish it in a month if you really commit.
Yeah, it's just like you can easily do just like binge sessions where you just like watch 20 at a time and you get done with it in like 2 hours. And it's like the length of a regular movie, but you watch 20 movies instead.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And there's a lot of great stuff in here. And it's like if you're listening to the podcast and you haven't been watching along, uh, first off, I'm confused how you got this far and haven't been at all interested to watch these nominees. But also go and watch some, please. I'm begging you, watch some. I have a list on Letterboxd of all my favorite, well, of all the nominees ranked, and you can look at that. Well, I guess if you're looking at this through my through the podcast page, you wouldn't really see my Letterboxd, but just DM me. I'll send it to you. You can look at my ranking. and get spoilers for future episodes and how they're ranked if you care about that.
Yeah, I only have a ranking of the winners. I don't really bother with the nominees. There are too many.
There is a lot, but it's just like I built this like as I was watching them for the first time, and then as I'm rewatching these, it's just like I just kind of alter the rankings and stuff a
Yeah, the
little
thing is
bit.
that by the time that I watched the later ones, like I forgot how I really felt about the first one, so it becomes hard to rank.
Yeah. But that's also a great thing about this podcast. It's that like I'm forced to talk about these, and so it forces me to have some
Yeah,
better kind
to
of
have a stronger
recollection.
opinion.
Yeah, it's just like it helps like, just saying things out loud helps you remember them. So it's just like and it's the same way it's like when I write my review, it's just like that's often the only thing I remember about the short film is just like the little joke review I wrote about it. And it's just like, okay, but this doesn't tell me anything about the film itself, but it was the only thing I thought to write down also. So it must not have been that good. But who
That's
knows?
most of them. That's most movies for me. I don't really know how to write reviews, so I just like whatever comes into my mind when I'm watching it.
Hmm. Yeah. But yeah. Well, thank you, Ronaldo, for coming on the show, and thank you, listener, for tuning in. This has been the short podcast about short films. Until next time, goodbye.